Hello and welcome to the channel, and welcome back for y'all longtime viewers here. Today we're going to be talking about the Lafayette Mill Antiques Center in Lafayette, New Jersey. So today we're in Lafayette, New Jersey, exploring the Lafayette Mill Antiques Center. It's a unique destination that combines history, shopping, and some unexpected surprises. Inside the old mill, you'll find an antique center packed with treasures from vintage furniture to collectibles to rare memorabilia. Walking through here feels like stepping back in time. Every corner has something different to discover, and it's also spread across multiple floors. It's about 3 floors. It has a main level, and then it has an attic space, and it also has a basement space. And each of the different sections or areas within the main floors are different vendors. So it's set up like an antique center, which in antique centers, the way they're set up is that there are booths among this massive layout. So it's not just one person that collected all these antiques. There are several people who do this.
Yeah, we're high up.
Now, we also took a part of the day to go ahead and sightsee around this region. So about 30 minutes or so away from Lafayette is where the classic Friday the 13th film was filmed. It was released in 1980, and it's a low-budget horror movie set in the fictional Camp Crystal Lake. It became a cultural phenomenon, spawning countless sequels, and is also one of the most recognized horror movies in the world, but also Jason Voorhees is one of the most recognized villains. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movies, you should. But also, fun fact, the first one, actually, it was Jason's mother who was the villain. Who would have thought? Also, the nearby town of Blairstown played the role of Main Street in the beginning of the first film. Fans can still visit the diner. You can visit where one of the first kills was set up. On any Friday the 13th horror enthusiast, They gather here to celebrate the legacy with screenings, tours, and special events. We did not go on Friday the 13th, so there was no like special things going on. It's also incredible to think that this small, quiet corner of New Jersey became the backdrop for one of horror's biggest franchises. And more than can I speak today? Retry. More than 40 years later, the movie still resonates. And it's not just because of the scares, but it's because how real the setting feels.
would be a weird process to do with high schoolers.
So what makes Friday the 13th even more chilling is that so many scenes were shot right here in New Jersey, and of all places. The real Camp Crystal Lake is actually Camp No Be Sco, and is a working Boy Scout, blah, 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 can't speak, working Boy Scout camp tucked away in Blairstown. So you're not able to go to the actual camp. We drove up to near where it is, and we actually drove up to the entrance, but it is a working camp, and it is summer when we went, so we couldn't go into it, but you can see kind of the forest and the inspiration if you drive around that area. And we got to see some black bears, which are always so much fun to see. You don't get to see them that much up around in where we live in New Jersey, but not too far away is the mountains, and they do inhabit that area. So it's really fun to kind of do that. It also brings back memories of when I was a kid, and we would go to Dollywood and Pigeon Forge and then go like bear sightseeing, which is like a big thing you do there. So it was just really fun, and they were so freaking cute. adorable. We were safely in our car, watching them from the side of the road. So whether you're a die-hard horror fan or just curious about the movie, Friday the 13th filming locations are a must-see. But remember, when you're out by the lake, don't turn your back, because you never know who's watching. And thank you for sticking around, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!